Welcome to the Pawn Sacrifice channel, and this is a slight change from the usual. So I'm not taking a break. I'm videoing some time off from the 924S turbo build. The reason for that is I've got a load of welding to do. So welding exhaust sections, and I'm trying to get to grips with welding stainless steel at the moment. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to be doing some other things. So what I have got is a Mini, so it's an R56 John Cooper Works, and got it from a main dealer, warranty, blah, 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 blah. The idea is that it's going to be a cheap car to run and will allow me more money for my project cars. So there's a few things I've got to be, or not necessarily I've got to, but when I get new cars, typically what I do is run through, have a look at bits that aren't 100%, and just try and get them so that they're looking their best, and sort out maybe a few practical things. So there's a few lists on the job in no particular order. Car came with this, which is a Nokia, I think, no, iPhone 4 adapter. iPhone 4 is long since deceased, so that's going to be replaced. I've taken it out, but what I want to do is try and get the bottom out and then get this little pop-up tray that will just go in there nice and neatly. So I want to try and do that. Makes a change. Normally I'm putting gadgety bits in. I've also got a bit of plastic, so I'll show you on the car, but the bottom bit of the steering wheel trim is damaged. I've also got the, this is a used door card trim. The one on there looks like the person that had the car previously was just, either putting their heel of the or something and scratching this piano black finish up, so I just need to get that off. That's hopefully a relatively straightforward job. The other thing I want to do is the Alcantara on the steering wheel. So yeah, there's a few different things. What I do is I'll list some time codes, preferably in this space here, just to where things are depending on what job you've come to have a look at. But normally what I find is with used cars, just going through, and I did this with the 911 with the 996, and just went through and replaced a few of the little trim pieces, and it just makes such a difference to the interior of the car, and just makes it a nicer ownership experience. Disconnecting the battery before I start, just under this little tray under the bonnet. Doing this now so that it can fully discharge before I start fiddling around with anything connected to the airbag. Once this is off, I just like to put a rag underneath to stop it from connecting to the terminal. And now the door cards, you can see here the scratches, very noticeable, and this is exactly what I want to get rid of. To get the door card off, first of all you need to just get a little stabby type thing and put it underneath the door handle. There's a little plug there to remove. Once it's out a little bit, I just use a proper tool to get rid of it. Once the little pin is out, then it's just a case of pulling the rest of it forwards or prising it off. Now that's off, I just get the little pry bar tool. It's worth getting a set of these plastic tools. They're not very expensive, and it's much better than using anything metallic under there. So just work around with these. You will notice that there's always a big click whenever you do these things. It's quite disconcerting at first, but I just run around the edge, and then there'll be a point where I've got enough of a gap there that I can just get my fingers in behind and start pulling everything forwards. It's quite easy with this, as you'll see in a second, mostly because the door card's in two parts, and the bits with the armrest and everything else that's attached to the door is left behind. So this is literally just removing a bunch of clips and then taking everything off. Almost forgot, last thing is just push through the little puddle light to disconnect it from the door card. Fitting is the reverse, just fiddle around putting the puddle light in, hook it over the door lock, and then just run around and tap everything into place. I think all in this probably took me about 5 or 6 minutes at normal speed, and then just sit back and admire one's work. Tackling the steering wheel bit, aiming for this little hole which is very badly found, just put a blunt object which will fit in. That's a Torx bit, and then I think I needed to do it just a bit more, and then it pops off. There's a spring inside, and that allows you to remove the horn airbag thingamajig to get to the bit that we need. This is what we're replacing and why. Due to laziness, I'm just holding the airbag up rather than removing it. Even so, I'd rather do this with the battery disconnected so that nothing accidentally makes contacts and blows the thing up in my face. And then it's just a case of fiddling around with some of the trim removal pry bars until this thing eventually comes out. These are the holes where it fits in. It's just by friction. There's the few prongs, and yeah, it's just a case of positioning it over and then knocking it into place, and that's it. So for the armrest, just slide it back and then pull it up at the point it would normally go down, and it's off. Next, there's a little Torx screw at the back, just to remove the cover to enable everything to come out. So just undo that and then the cover comes loose. Trying to get this tray out turned out to be a complete mystery for me, and I did loads of things that I probably shouldn't have done. So what I'll do is I'll edit this bit together to show you how it should have gone. This is probably a bit premature in hindsight, but there's a couple little caps on the bottom of the pivot points, so I'm just removing those, and then there's a small Torx head which goes in and removes the bolts, and then from there is a couple of little grommets on the inside which hold everything in place and line it all up. So remove those, and then the armrest is free to move about. I'd seen some instructions for the BMW version of this tray which looked absolutely identical, to say you just need to get in there and give it a strong old prise and away you go, it's removed. But I ended up having to break bits and peel it back layer by layer until everything was out, which was a bit disappointing to be honest, but there we go, it seemed to get the job done. Next thing was depinning and running back the electric cables, just splitting those out and feeding them through the back of the armrest. Next up, I'm removing a couple more Torx screws from the back, just so that I can undo and move up the center console bit. And from the front, there's just a couple more bits in the cup holders, and then once that's free, the whole thing can be pulled up. There's just one of those push clips that sits in the middle of the armrest, and that just needs prising out. And this is actually inside the back of the center console. You can see there's two clips on the left which just need unplugging, and then I relocated the originals, and there's one down on the right as well. Next was just fitting this little plastic tray bit. There's a part number and there's some extra storage space, all nice and neat. Final job was this steering wheel, Alcantara top and bottom, and it's just all matted and horrible. That's probably the best shot of it. A couple of cloths, some washing liquid, vinegar and warm water, and a small pot of water there. So all I'm doing is just putting the washing concoction on the cloth, just wetting that down. I'm rinsing the cloth out, this just in the early stages where it's picking up quite a lot of dirt, so I'm just going down, doing that top and then bottom. I'm using one of the spare cloths there just to then also dry everything off as well. I'm not giving a bit of a rub down, but nothing too frantic there. and that all seems to be working okay. I think I repeated this process for about half an hour. You can see outside it's even starting to get dark now, but yeah, just carried on, same method over and over again. Given how dark it was last night, or getting at the end of the job, is the following day, and a look inside the car. So steering wheel is better. It's certainly a lot cleaner, looks a lot nicer with that tab on the bottom as well. You can just see it's a bit furry, it feels a lot better than it looks. And here we've got some extra storage space, which is very valuable in this car. And you can't see much, but here's the door card, looking nice. So there's a few jobs done. It was a bit of a faff. The steering wheel, I'm going to see what that's like when it dries. I am very cautious about the stitching on that, but it seems when you give it a little wipe, I'm not sure how well that would have come across, but it feels like there's something there rather than it just being sort of matted and flat. I tend to drive obviously like that, so hopefully the top and the bottom will stay in good nick. The main bit that I'm pleased about is getting this horrible thing replaced. You can see it's down the bottom there. I suspect I probably could have peeled that off and then just got some matte paint and sprayed it, and it probably would have looked okay. So you could potentially do that and save yourself a few pounds. So that's pleased to have that done. Pleased to have the thingy cleaned. Door card's changed. It's better than the old one, and it has got some marks on it, but the new one's a lot less glaring in terms of the position of the old one. Actually, if you are, I'm not sure how much you saw the back of it, but essentially those are all the clips that you're pulling out. I'll try and leave a bit of the sound in, or hopefully I've managed to leave some sound in. It really does crack. But it's just pulling those things, and once you get started, it's just as easy to get your hands in as trying to use tools. Doing the little tray bit, Jesus, what a pain in the ass that was. I'm glad it's done. Slightly, it's one of those things. I'm disappointed the tray broke when I was taking it out, and I had read a few places where people were saying they had to do that. I'm sure I will never ever use it again. I mean, having a thing for an iPhone 4 these days is pretty pointless. I don't think the phones even support it, but still, a little bit of me is a bit annoyed. But in a car where storage space is such a premium, it's just nice to have that capacity there and just be able to put things in. You can use it with the adapter, the main tray adapter taken out, but it's just nice to get that done. So yeah, something a little bit different, but as I mentioned before, this is the sort of thing I do to my cars when I get them, and occasionally if bits aren't too expensive, sometimes even before I sell them, if something that I've been living with for a bit is just making it look a bit tired, then I'll go in and just get that done. So that is it for this little diversion. I'm actually well aware that the car needs a proper clean anyway, in addition to having done those bits. But yeah, there we are, hopefully back on track with the 924S and some welding shenanigans next time. Cheers for watching, bye now.